Part 7. Another Long Road Begins. After the success of both miniseries for the Sci Fi Channel, Dune on screen and in any kind of video game would seem to cool its heels for the time being. However, as for the literary world, Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson would continue to crank out new Dune novels. After finishing their House trilogy of Dune novels in 2001, the pair would quickly move on to the next series. From 2002 to 2006 would see the release of 6 more Dune books, and in 2003, Brian Herbert would publish Dreamer of Dune, a biography of Frank Herbert. Starting with the Legends of Dune trilogy, Dune, the Butlerian Jihad, in 2002, Dune, the Machine Crusade in 2003, Dune, the Battle for Corrin in 2004. The Road to Dune in 2005, which had an alternate Dune story based on Frank Herbert's notes, deleted material from the first 2 Dune novels, and several Dune short stories by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. And in 2006, The Hunters of Dune, which was one half of Dune 7, followed up in 2007 with the release of Sandworms of Dune, the final half of Dune 7, and the ultimate conclusion to the Dune saga. Also in 2007, the now playing toy line by Soda Toys would release Vladimir Harkonnen 7-inch action figure based on the character from the 1984 film. From what I can tell, this was the only Dune figure they did. Then, rumors started to circulate that Dune might be headed back to the big screen, as reported by this Ain't It Cool News article from October 15th, 2007. In this article, it was reported as rumor at the time that Paramount was looking to add another franchise to its ranks, and that Dune was on their radar. This rumor was given some weight because it was in relation to a post made on a Dune forum by Byron Merritt, the grandson of Frank Herbert. "We're getting very close to a deal. Heard that news today," he posted on Friday, following that up with, "Although only rumor, I've heard that someone at the studio wants Dune really bad, and has been a fan of the novel for years. They're not saying who this is, and it might just be hype, but I'm holding out hope that whoever this might be is a big enough fan that she will do the book justice. Supposedly, it's some director." It was also reported in the same article that writer-director Peter Berg was being attached as director. Peter Berg was known for, at the time, for the films Friday Night Lights, 2004, and The Kingdom, 2007. Then, on December 21st, 2007, it was reported that Dune was in development, and that Peter Berg was involved to direct. However, his involvement in the film was stalled due to the writer's strike at the time, keeping the project from moving forward. The other reason was Berg was working on the film Hancock, and was planning on directing Edwin A. Salt next. Finally, news came out that it was official Peter Berg would be directing a new adaptation of Dune for Paramount. Kevin Misher, who had spent the last year securing the rights to the Dune novel from the Herbert estate, was going to produce the film. Richard P. Rubinstein would also be on the project as a producer as well. Paramount's goal was to have Dune act as a tentpole film. On June 6, 2008, The Hollywood Reporter reported that Josh Zatumer was in negotiations to write the script for the upcoming Dune film. Josh Zatumer was an up-and-coming writer at the time, and would hand in a completed 175-page draft for Dune. Everything seemed to be locked and loaded for a new Dune film, with a major studio backing it, and Peter Berg officially attached, and script completed. Dune fans could get excited. However, things would take a turn for the worse. When, on October 27, 2009, the website Pajiba dropped an exclusive update on the new Dune adaptation by Paramount, and the news was not good. First off, it was implied by this article that Peter Berg discussed his Dune project with actor Robert Pattinson. Although nothing official, it was believed that Robert Pattinson was being looked at for the film's lead. The bad news, however, was that Peter Berg and his production company, Film 44, had completely dropped out of the project. It was reported by this website that Paramount was left scrambling to find a director to replace Berg. Also, that they had two requirements for a director for their planned Dune adaptation. 1. They wanted a film director who could bring the film in at under $175 million budget. 2. They wanted a director that was a fan of the book and had enthusiasm for the project. Also, it was reported that Paramount had shopped the Zoomer script to directors Neil Blomkamp and Neil Marshall, with Paramount being nervous on Neil Marshall at the time because he had only one modest hit under his belt, The Descent. The only reason I could find for why Peter Berg ditched Dune with Paramount was to direct Battleship, based on the board game, over at Universal. Battleship turned out to be a huge loss for Universal, and probably didn't do Peter Berg's career any favors, from what it seems from this quote by Peter Berg himself. I couldn't say no to that challenge. I felt I had a new understanding of what went into making a blockbuster. I got a taste of the film's global power, but I discounted the effect of Will Smith on Hancock's success. I thought I could pull off Battleship without a big star, though the perception wasn't that Peter Berg screwed up. Where do you go to buy back your reputation when you lose it? I saw Battleship in the theaters, and if only based on that one film, I'd never want Peter Berg anywhere near Dune. It doesn't make any sense to me as to why a director would choose an idea like a Battleship movie, an idea that is lame right out the gate, over a chance to direct something as rich in story as Dune. Could there have been other factors? I did find an article by The Hollywood Reporter from 2008 that reported Paramount, along with Universal Pictures, were looking at ways to cut overhead costs. So Paramount, along with Universal, had declined to renew a number of production deals. As a result, Paramount was not renewing the production deal with Kevin Misher and his production company. Misher's contract would run until the end of 2009. This was happening at the same time Misher was producing Dune for Paramount. This is pure speculation on my part, but perhaps this caused the project to move too slowly for Peter Berg, or it was causing the project to be stalled. I could find no evidence the two are linked, but an interesting side note. We will never know what the full vision of Peter Berg's Dune film would have been. However, we have been left with a few clues as to somewhat of a direction he might have been planning. In 2009, MTV caught up with Peter Berg and asked him what his plans were for his adaptation of Dune. The book was much more muscular and adventurous, more violent, and possibly even a little bit more fun. I think those are all elements of my experience of the book that can be brought in without offending the die-hard fans of the Bene Gesserit and Kwisatz Haderach. There is a more dynamic film to be made. It seemed from his answer that he might have been planning to up the action and violence of the film. British artist known as Jock had created some early concept artwork for Peter Berg's Dune. His take on the sandworms were quite interesting, as was his idea for the look of Paul Atreides. Here is his sketch of Caladan, which really pushes the idea of it as a water planet. Finally, the plains of Arrakeen. More of Jock's concept artwork for Dune can be seen over at the Dune Info website. Peter Berg only ever discussed Dune with Robert Pattinson, but it makes sense he would have been considered for the role of Paul. The Twilight movies were extremely popular at the time, as were the books. Robert Pattinson had a strong fan following because of that series. Also, I found briefly mentioned in a Los Angeles Times article from 2010 that Charlize Theron was considered for the role of Lady Jessica. From everything I read about this production, I'm not sure if Peter Berg, from his comments, really grasped what Dune was all about. Also, they would have made the same mistake as the '84 film, squeezing all of Frank Herbert's story into one movie. Dune needs to be 2 or 3 films to really be able to tell the epic story. Also, I've gotten the impression that Paramount wanted Dune to be another franchise like Transformers or Star Trek, which Dune is neither of those things. Also, I'm not sure I would have been sold on Robert Pattinson as Paul. Charlize Theron, however, I think would have made a good Lady Jessica. As bad as this news would have seemed at the time, It, however, would not be the end, and the push for a new Dune film would continue. Thank you to all of my subscribers, and thank you for watching this video. And if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to hit the bell icon for notification when new videos are uploaded.